Project Search is an international program started at Cincinnati Children's Hospital in Ohio.
It's a transition program that is targeted for students 18 to 21. Students with cognitive and intellectual disabilities participate in this program. Employment is our primary focus.
In 2011, Project Search was introduced to Delaware at the Christianic Hospital, and since then has been replicated at 3 other sites in Delaware.
It is a business model program that allows students to fully participate into internships throughout the hospital.
Interns follow a traditional school year starting in August through June. Typically, students learn about Project Search while they're in high school through their vocational rehabilitation counselor or members of their high school support team. They are able to come to this program and have the opportunity to be immersed in a real work environment where they're able to spend 12 weeks on 3 different rotations in areas of interest. 2 Project Search sites in Delaware have also won the Delaware Superstars in Education Award.
I went to Central High School. Miss Angie came to visit the school and she was telling us about the internship in Project Search. And I said, I always wanted to get in the hospital, Christiana Hospital. So I signed up.
Each day, the individuals come in and spend an hour of class time on work skills to practice. They spend the rest of their day working on site. They have opportunities to share with one another experiences in their job sites, as well as learn new ways to best face job problems and opportunities to grow each day.
Well, it taught me a lot about work experience and stuff, like how to come to work, like training and stuff, and getting prepared for the real world.
While in a business setting, the Project Search model affords the opportunity for interns to have supports not only through our skills trainers, but also through role models that are directly from the business. The collaboration between all partners is key to successful student outcomes.
Over the years, the Materials Department have hired approximately 3 interns that came through the Project Search program. Brianna has been in the Materials Department for about 3 years.
I did have to fill out a job application, and then I got accepted as a part-time job, and then I worked my way up and got full-time. When I first started, I had a hard time. I didn't give up though, but I didn't know what I was doing, but everybody came along and helped me be successful with the job.
If it's that thing that she doesn't know, she's not certain about it, she never pushed back, there's never, not sure, haven't done this, show me what I need to do and I'll get that done.
When I come to work, my job is to have the supplies ready for the nurses and doctors to take care of the patients. I like to do deliveries and stuff like that, walk around the hospital, get to know everybody.
The interns that are brought on for competitive employment gets all the benefits. As a full-timer, Brianna has every benefit that I have.
Work at Care made me independent, buy my car, and take care of my son.
Brianna just brings that confidence and certainty that every day when she walks in the department, what she has to get done and how she can get her job done, as well as how can I help someone else get theirs done.
My team, we all come together as family. We work together helping put away orders and stuff.
Over the 7 years, we've had great success with placement in the community for competitive employment. Our last few years, we've actually had 100% placement in the community.
We're begging Project Search, we're begging Angie, are we going to get anyone this coming year?
I'd be in a different place if it wasn't for Project Search.
Hello, I'm Dr. Tanya Eccles-Cole, and I'm an oncologist. Today, I'm talking to Mary Brick, a breast cancer survivor. Once cancer treatment is completed, patients may experience a range of feelings, from a sense of relief to anxiety and worry about life after treatment. Mary is here to talk about what it was like for her to adjust to life after cancer treatment. Mary, how did you feel emotionally and physically after completing cancer treatment? And what was it like for you to adjust to what some patients call your new normal?
Well, it took a little bit of adjustment in the beginning because looking in the mirror, I saw somebody completely different from the person I'd seen for 48 years prior to being diagnosed with cancer. The other thing is that I felt that my new normal was a lot different from what was normal for me before cancer. Every time I heard the word cancer or saw the word cancer, I thought about what I had gone through. I thought about my diagnosis. I also thought that I needed to prepare myself for the possibility of reoccurrence somewhere in the future. And so some of the things that I did were to collect research and look online for the newest treatment and the newest studies that came out so that I could share them with my oncologist whenever I saw her, and so that I could just keep them by my side in case I needed them ever again. Some of the other things that were sort of like the new normal for me were, although my family was really supportive during my treatment, it seemed like after treatment, everything sort of went back to the way it was before. And it wasn't like that for me because I was always thinking about cancer. I was always thinking about what I needed to do to prevent cancer. And I don't know if my family was really thinking about, what I had gone through. We don't really talk much about it, so I'm not quite sure if they think about it as much as I do. But that's something that, I often wonder. Some of the other differences are that as part of my experience, I'm different physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. I've come to really appreciate some of the smaller things in life and just have a simple gratitude for being present in the everyday moment.
Wow, your new normal has really changed.
Dr. Cole, I have a question for you. How have you seen post-treatment challenges affect your patients, and what can we do to make sure that we get the support we need when treatment is over?
Well, first of all, it's important for survivors, both before, during, and after treatment, to let your physicians or your healthcare providers know what emotional concerns or needs that you have. That way you're plugged into the system from the beginning and you can have that support throughout your entire treatment course. It's common for cancer survivors to have fear, to experience fear, especially during treatment. You always have that fear of, am I going to have some side effect from treatment? Am I going to die of my cancer? And then after treatment, it's common for patients to feel like, is my cancer going to come back? And you always want to make sure that you address those concerns for a patient, but we don't know unless you tell us. So the things that you can do, you can always optimize your health by, improving your diet, a healthy diet, exercise, doing the appropriate follow-up care with all of your physician team, because many survivors have more than one physician that they're following with, and it's important for you to follow up with each physician. And the last thing that I see patients struggle with are side effects from treatment. If you've got, say, lymphedema, or you're having chronic pain as a result of scarring or a side effect from your treatment, you have to really talk with your physician about ways that you can continue your normal routine, but adapt to the changes you need to make for those side effects and get the appropriate treatments that are available to help you manage those side effects more effectively.
That's really good to know. And so what can providers do?
Well, providers can provide mental health screenings and refer if appropriate to clinical or community settings for counseling and support. They can also make sure or teach survivors about nutrition, proper exercise, getting enough sleep, reducing high-risk behaviors such as smoking and excess drinking. They can also make sure that they're getting the appropriate screenings for, say, pap smears or colonoscopies.
It's really good information for me to hear. Thank you. Doctors and nurses have a real opportunity to reduce the impact of problems like these and help cancer survivors like me live happy, healthier lives.
Doctors and nurses need to work with patients to address the possible long-term and late psychosocial effects of cancer diagnosis and treatment, provide coordinated care, and promote healthy behaviors. conducting recommended distress screening and urging cancer survivors to receive treatment for psychosocial and neurocognitive concerns when indicated is an important part of their care. For access to healthcare provider training and resources and information about the topics discussed, please visit cdc.gov/cancer and chronicdisease.org.
He loved animals. Oh, we taught him right. He knew how to give flowers to ladies and open doors. He loved to cook.
It was a beautiful sunny California day, and he came down with his friend's mother and him, and they were playing tag, and he tried to slip through the gate. And the gate activated, it jumped, it put him in cardiac arrest.
Sisters Julie and Michelle continue to deal with the loss of Julie's son, Marlo, who died tragically in an accident involving an automatic security gate. Operation SafeGate wants to put an end to these types of preventable tragedies. The U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission estimates there were 1,500 emergency room injuries between 2011 and 2015. The majority of incidents involve public access gates around communities, condominiums, and apartment buildings. Operation SafeGate offers these tips to ensure your safety around automatic security gates. Never allow children to play on or around automatic gates. Never stick hands, legs, or head through openings on gates. Never walk through an automated gate system that is intended for vehicles. Look for a separate pedestrian entrance. Make sure your gate bears the mark of a nationally recognized testing laboratory such as UL or ETL. Make sure an automatic gate tragedy never happens to you or a loved one.
I miss him every day.
For more information, go to cpsc.gov.
The exercise is called Tranquil Terminus.
We have 4 patients who have tested positive for Ebola.
It's a neat opportunity to both prepare and practice for any kind of possible contagion.
2 patients will be received in Spokane, Washington, and 2 in Los Angeles, where they'll be going to their treatment facilities.
You know, you're looking at probably 50 different organizations that came together to make this exercise happen.
So to be able to have this opportunity to welcome the patients here, have our responders meet them, and work collaboratively to get the patients safely to care at the Regional Ebola Treatment Center. It's extremely important that we do that.
This is a patient movement capability that allows us to move patients with highly infectious disease from a rural area to a hospital that can provide services for the disease that they have.
Since we have 2 that are ambulatory, they'll be faster. So you can go ahead and hit the 2 ambulatory and get them up.
In this situation, the patient's signs and symptoms matched with their previous travel history to the region that was having a current Ebola outbreak, and given those signs and symptoms, we quickly isolated the patient. We're able to activate our Ebola protocols within the facility and start the process of getting them transported to the treatment facility.
We transported them in an isopod, and for exercise play, we'll take him out of the isopod to put him on the aircraft.
By 15 minutes in, I'm going to put an inject in that one of the patients goes from dry to wet.
actually have a special ambulance that we use. That ambulance is wrapped in plastic, and the only thing that ambulance is used for is special pathogens patients like you're seeing here today. Those are patients that have come in contact with some highly infectious disease of any type, not just Ebola, but that is what we typically practice.
The challenge of this exercise is that every patient we're moving is highly infectious. One of our goals is to ensure the safety of not only the providers, but the general public throughout the entire patient movement process.
They were transported to the Regional Infectious Disease Treatment Center, and that's at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. And I know they're en route to Cedars-Sinai, and we're waiting for the announcement that they have arrived safely.
So patient number 2 is offloaded in Cedars care. All right. Well, congratulations. Thanks for the phone call. All right, so we're going to consider this index.
With these high-risk events, it's important that we get these opportunities to practice because the day it happens, we need to be prepared.
We don't know if a disease is going to present itself in our community.
I believe we are more prepared today than we were yesterday, And with the lessons learned and building those into our plans, we'll be even more prepared tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
I've been at CDC for 14 years. I work for the Division of Vector-Borne Diseases in Fort Collins, Colorado. I'm a research entomologist. I study mosquitoes and the best way to control them, including the impact of insecticide resistance. My path to public health arose because I love insects, I love helping people, and becoming a medical entomologist was a way that I could put the two together to do something I love. If I didn't work for CDC, I have two dream jobs. The first would be to work in a local mosquito control program, and the other would be to be a librarian. So I remember a situation where I went to Miami to work on a Zika virus outbreak, and I had to attend a city council meeting to discuss mosquito control. That's a topic that can be very controversial, and so there was a lot of shouting, there was a lot of anger, the media was there, so people were on edge, and it really made me feel intimidated. But the next day, when I was working in the community, there were a lot of people who came up to me and thanked me for the work that I was there doing. And so it really made me feel much better, like I was having a positive impact on the community. I get to help communities control mosquitoes, which protects everyone from mosquito-borne diseases, and that's one of CDC's goals. I'm Janet McAllister, and I am CDC.
Hi, I'm Hector, and I work for the Internal Revenue Service. If you have medical or dental expenses, you may be able to deduct some of them on your tax return. Keep in mind you will need to itemize your deductions to do this. There are two things you need to do to figure out whether you can claim any of your medical and dental expenses. First, add up all your medical and dental expenses. You may include expenses you paid for yourself, your spouse, or a dependent, such as your child. Be sure to count any expense you paid throughout the year. Usually what counts is the date you paid an expense, not the date when the medical service was received. Expenses that qualify include co-payments and unreimbursed amounts for prescriptions, doctor visits, and procedures. You can also include some insurance premiums, medical supplies, medical-related mileage, and transportation costs. Second, see if your total expenses are more than 7.5% of your adjusted gross income, or AGI. This threshold is the same for all taxpayers. Now be sure to keep all your receipts. Find out more about deducting medical expenses by using our interactive tax assistant. You will find it at irs.gov/ITA.
Hello, I'm Dr. Lynn Padgett, and I'm a clinical health psychologist. I'm here with Brock Lamont, who's a multiple myeloma cancer survivor. Cancer survivors are often affected by mental health problems, but for some patients, talking about these challenges is more difficult than talking about physical health concerns. These are not always easy conversations for providers to start either. Cultural beliefs and worries about stigma, negative attitudes about mental health, these can all play a role in how difficult for these discussions can be. Brock is going to tell us about his experience talking about mental health issues with his healthcare providers during and after his cancer diagnosis and treatment. Thanks, Brock, for sharing your story with us.
Thank you, Dr. Padgett. It's great to be here.
Great. So tell me, what was the experience of sharing your concerns about mental health with your providers, and how did those conversations go?
It was a difficult experience, I have to be honest with you. I mean, cancer alone is hard to deal with, but also thinking about the mental health aspects of having this diagnosis and trying to deal with it, I think is very difficult and challenging as well. For me, my journey really started when I was having some back pains and problem sleeping, and I was undergoing physical therapy. and the physical therapy just wasn't, taking care of the problem. So we decided to do an MRI. We did the MRI. I normally would then go in and see a physician's assistant and my physical therapist. It's a little bit different this time. I actually saw a physician, the lead of the practice, and he actually told me that the radiologist, when they read the MRI results, thought that it looked like I had advanced prostate cancer, which that was a very scary thing to hear, and it came like a thunderbolt, out of the sky, out of a clear blue sky, and it was very challenging. And he actually reached out to a oncologist friend of his who was an excellent physician, someone I went to. We did some further battery of testing, and that's when they determined I had multiple myeloma. I really appreciate the relationship I have with my primary oncologist. This is the individual I was referred to, and he made it really easy for me to be able to talk with him, not just about my cancer diagnosis and the options that we had in dealing with this medically, but also the other things I need to be really thinking about, and that includes mental health. That includes, the importance of maintaining a really positive attitude. I'm a firm believer in that. I think that's part of the whole aspect, the strategies that you have to use when you're facing something like a cancer diagnosis. And my oncologist was really good about speaking with me about that and giving me time to ask questions, and he'd answer those questions. We had such a great rapport, and that made it easier to talk about these things. My wife also she's a teacher now, but in a prior life she was a social worker. And so I spent a lot of time talking with her also about how we're going to fight this, and that includes, some of the things I'll be feeling, the anxiety, the depression, other things like that, and recognizing that, realizing that that's a normal thing, and that there's approaches, there's strategies that we could use to address that. And she really helped, me prepare myself for these meetings. She was always in these meetings with me, and it always, I think, just about every meeting we had a component of our conversation talking about just my general mental health and what I was thinking about, and the natural things that you could be, experiencing, and how to address those things. And I felt that was just so very important and so very helpful for me.
Wow, that is a very compelling story.
Well, thank you. So, Dr. Paget, I have a question for you. What would you say to patients who are unsure about speaking about mental health issues with their providers, and what would you say to providers about how to get those conversations started?
Great. Thanks for asking. I tell patients that it's really important to realize that their care is not just about their tumor or their cancer, but that it's whole person care. And whole person care is comprised of physical and mental health symptoms. It's important for them to report both of those symptoms, including mental health, to their providers. So I would encourage them to tell their providers what they're experiencing. One way they can do that is through a process we call distress screening, where they may be in electronic form, perhaps on a piece of paper. They're invited to check a checklist of symptoms that include physical, social, and psychological needs. So that's another way to report those symptoms to their provider. One thing that's really important for patients to know also is that this information, this mental health information that they discuss with their provider, is confidential. For providers, I would really encourage them to inquire about a patient's mental health, but also to recognize that cultural, religious, or personal beliefs may impact the patient's willingness to share, and that it may take multiple questions and some encouragement to really get a response from them. So those are kind of the general recommendations for both patients and providers to initiate and have these conversations.
Doctors and nurses have a real opportunity to reduce the impact of problems like these and help cancer survivors like me live happy, healthier lives.
Open communication between healthcare providers and patients regarding cancer-related mental health concerns is an important part of high-quality care. Healthcare providers can make communication easier by assessing patients' cultural, social, or stigma-related beliefs about mental health care first. For access to healthcare provider training resources and information about the topics discussed, please visit cdc.gov/cancer and chronicdisease.org.